11:43 p.m., October 18th, 2019, Maplewood Avenue. The burnt smell of overheated brake pads drifted through the open window as I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. My phone showed exactly 3 missed calls from an unknown number. I told myself it was nothing. I didn't know it yet, but those 3 missed calls would become the first clue investigators would later place on an evidence board. My name is Daniel Carter. I was 26 years old, worked as a payroll assistant at a manufacturing company, and lived alone in a quiet apartment just outside town. My life wasn't exciting, but I liked it that way. Every weekday followed the same routine. Coffee from the gas station on Oak Street, 8 hours behind 2 computer monitors. Dinner from the small diner across from my apartment every Thursday. Sundays belonged to my parents, where my mother always insisted on serving homemade chicken soup, even when nobody was sick. The town itself felt frozen in time. Neighbors still waved from their porches. Children rode bicycles until sunset. The loudest sound after midnight was usually the freight train passing several miles away. Nothing dangerous ever happened here, at least. That's what everyone believed. The first strange thing happened on my drive home. A dark gray sedan appeared behind me just after I left work. I noticed it because one of its headlights looked slightly dimmer than the other. It stayed behind me through 3 traffic lights, then 4. I laughed to myself. Coincidence. Thousands of people drove the same roads every day. Still. Instead of turning toward my apartment, I drove an extra mile. The sedan stayed behind me. I made another unnecessary turn. It followed again. Only when I pulled into a crowded gas station did the driver finally continue straight without ever looking in my direction. Or at least, I thought they hadn't. As I walked toward the store entrance, I glanced back. The driver's window was halfway down. Someone inside was watching me. I couldn't make out a face, only motionless eyes beneath the shadow of the roof. By the time I stepped back outside, the sedan was gone. I never told anyone. Not then. The next week, life returned to normal. Or at least it pretended to. Little things started happening. My apartment smelled faintly of cigarette smoke, even though I had never smoked. The television was on one afternoon after I was certain I'd turned it off. A kitchen cabinet I always kept closed stood slightly open. Every explanation sounded reasonable. Maybe I forgot. Maybe I was tired. Maybe stress was playing tricks on me. That's what I kept telling myself. Then came Saturday. The park had always been my escape. I sat on the same wooden bench overlooking a narrow walking path surrounded by leafless trees. The autumn wind pushed dry leaves across the pavement with a scratching sound that reminded me of footsteps. Families passed. Joggers waved. Everything looked normal. Then the feeling arrived. That strange sensation everyone knows but can't explain. The feeling that someone is staring. I slowly turned. Near an old black lamp post stood a man wearing a gray hoodie, hands inside his pockets, perfectly still. He wasn't using his phone. He wasn't exercising. He wasn't walking. He was simply looking at me. I looked away for a second, embarrassed. When I looked back, he was still there. Watching. I stood. He immediately turned and walked toward the parking lot. Not fast, not slow. Just calmly. Something inside me said to let it go. Instead, I followed dot by the time I reached the parking lot. He had vanished dot no running footsteps dot no closing car door dot nothing dot. It was as if he disappeared into thin air. That night, I barely slept dot every creak inside my apartment sounded louder than usual. Every passing car made me look through the blinds. At 2:14 a.m., my phone rang dot unknown number. I answered. Silence, not complete silence. Someone was breathing dot slowly dot steadily dot. I whispered, Nothing. Then the call ended. The next morning, I finally told my younger sister everything. She listened quietly before smiling. You're overthinking this. I've seen too many crime documentaries. Take a vacation. I wanted her to be right, dot. I really did. For a few days, I convinced myself everything had been coincidence. Until Wednesday evening dot as I walked toward my car after work. I found a small red notebook resting beneath my windshield wiper dot no envelope dot no writing outside dot just a worn leather. Notebook dot inside dot every page was blank dot except the last one. One sentence. Written in black ink dot you. Keep looking the wrong way. I froze. Someone nearby laughed. A shopping cart rolled across the parking lot. Dot. My heart pounded so hard. I could hear it. I spun around. People loaded groceries. Employees pushed carts. Traffic moved normally. Nobody looked suspicious. Nobody even looked at me. I drove straight to the police station. The officer listened carefully. He photographed the notebook, filed a report, asked whether anyone had threatened me recently. No. Whether the first had enemies. No. Whether I recognized the handwriting. No. Without fingerprints, without witnesses, without surveillance footage. There wasn't much they could do. Before I left, the officer handed the notebook back to me. Keep documenting everything, he said. If something else happens, call us immediately. I did exactly that. Every strange car, every unknown phone call, every unfamiliar face, every unusual sound. Outside my apartment, I wrote down times, dates, locations, license plates whenever I could. Looking back, now those pages weren't just notes. They were a timeline. One that detectives would later read over and over again, because only 4 days after writing the final entry, I vanished. My apartment door was locked from the inside. My wallet remained on the kitchen counter. Dinner was still sitting untouched on the table. My car never left its parking space, but I was gone and hidden inside that little red notebook. Police discovered one detail I had never noticed. The same 6-digit number appeared beside nearly every single entry.